Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So welcome all of you for this session. So last week we finished 3 and 4. 3 was the eligibility of the candidate to practice devotion service, and 4th was devotion service surpasses all liberation. How pure devotees reject the concept of pure devotees reject material desires and the desire for liberation. And therefore we saw so many quotes, around 25 quotes from various parts of the scriptures, especially from the Bhagavatam and from some other scriptures, that showed how devotees don't have the least desire to fulfill their material desires, or they don't desire for liberation. And that was the main concept brought about here. Chapter 5 we will see today is the purity of devotional service, and we will also discuss chapter 6. Rupa Goswami here discusses purity not in the conventional terms. Like we discuss purity based on how many impurities are there, or some contamination, some adulteration is there. In this case, we also saw purity in the second chapter, in the first chapter I think, Anyavilashita Shunyam, where Uttama Bhakti is defined. How if it is not covered by the desire for karma or jnana or any other material desire, and if the sole desire is to please Krishna favorably, then that is called Uttama, pure Bhakti, Shuddha Bhakti. Here we find purity defined in terms of Bhakti's independence of so many external factors. Because Bhakti is independent of so many things, therefore Bhakti is considered pure, supremely pure. So, 3 things Rupa Goswami discusses, how Bhakti is independent of these 3 things. One is external purity. Purity of our body, mind. Despite being impure, we can practice Bhakti. Our current status of purity is not essential to practice pure devotional service. Bhakti itself is pure, so it is independent of purity. Then it talks about independence from the need to perform prayaschitta, purificatory ceremonies, samskars, reformatory sessions. All these things are not essential to practice Bhakti. If you have, that is helpful, but it is not a compulsory criteria for practicing Bhakti. And the third thing Bhakti is independent of is our Varnashram position, social position in the Varnashram institution. That also doesn't matter for one to practice Bhakti. So because it is independent of all these 3 things, therefore Bhakti is considered pure. And there are references. So Rupa Goswami goes into detail how scriptural quotes and some incidents that show Bhakti is independent. Okay. So next chapter, Rupa Goswami talks about the 64 items of devotional service. He gives a list. The chapter is only a list. It's all the list of 64 items. So we will we'll go through all that also. So not a big session. Now all chapters are going to be short. The main concepts have been introduced in the beginning, and now it's elaboration on the 64 items. So from chapter 7 onwards, an elaboration on items of devotion service. That till chapters 14, till chapter 14 is an elaboration of each item of devotion service. 15, 16 is Raganuga Bhakti, 17, 18 is Raganuga, 18 is Bhava, 19 is Prema Bhakti. So let us begin. Paragraph 1. Are you comfortable with this pattern? We are going by paragraph by paragraph because that way you don't have to separately go and study. So I got a feedback. So some people are not so comfortable with the paragraph format. So, but I'm also so comfortable with that paragraph session. So, and at least we don't have to. Even if you are so busy, you don't have to take out separate time to study the book.
No, but this method is the best, having a test every week, that itself
is a big load clearance.
Yeah.
So, who can read first paragraph? Yes.
The purity of devotional service. All of the previous instructions imparted by Srila Rupa Goswami in his broad statements can be summarized thus. As long as one is materially inclined or desirous of merging into the spiritual effulgence, one cannot enter into the name of pure devotional service. Next, Rupa Goswami states that devotional service is transcendental to all material considerations and that it is not limited to any particular country, class, society or circumstance. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional service is transcendental and has no cause. Devotional service is executed without any hope for gain and it cannot be checked by any material circumstances. It is open for all without any distinction and it is the constitutional occupation of the living entities.
Which is a verse? Devotional service is executed without any hope for gain and it cannot be checked by any material circumstance. Famous verse from the Bhagavatam. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshje haituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. So the first line, the summary: as long as one is materially inclined or desirous of merging into the spiritual effulgence, one cannot enter into the realm of pure devotional service. This is a summary of all the previous instructions that Rupa Goswami has given till now. No material desire. Merging into the spiritual effulgence means liberation. So, even most of us we may not have gross material desires to fulfill, especially after following the four regulative principles. We may have at least theoretically given up the desire for gross material desire, and subtle material desires will take its own time. But we may not be free from the desire for liberation. And desire for liberation is something like desire to be comfortable, desire to avoid pain and miseries. We may not desire to merge into spiritual effulgence, Brahman effulgence. That is something theoretical. But even the desire to avoid miserable conditions of life, have some comforts, basic minimum comforts, and some luxuries, and to avoid inconveniences, that is a symptom of the desire for liberation. As soon as some difficulties arise, my bhakti gets affected, my devotion service gets affected, and that is indicative of our desire for liberation. And it's not easy to give it up. Some financial troubles happen, then my temple attendance reduces, or my hearing and chanting gets affected. Some health issues arise. What happens to my practice of devotion? Do we give that as an excuse for reduced devotion service? That means we are in that stage of desiring for liberation. Is that clear? So, especially these material things, most of us get affected. Health is a primary concern. If I am sick, seriously sick, do I chant my 16 rounds? Even that becomes an austerity then, to chant 16 rounds. And we have the example of Bhakti Tirth Maharaj, who would chant even in the last days, suffering from cancer, bone melanoma cancer. And he was asked, so what do you think now? He said, I cannot exchange this situation with anything else. This is the best situation I can think of to practice and remember Krishna. I cannot trade off this with anyone else. So to reach that stage, even if you see Prabhupada's life, if you have seen that video, the last lesson, the final lesson, there you find Prabhupada in the bed, totally only bones left, and he has a mic. Jayadut Maharaj is holding the mic near his mouth and is continuing to translate the final 14th chapter of the 10th canto, Brahmaji's prayers, Brahma Ki Mohan Lila. Even till the last moment, last day, that translation was happening. Who can imagine that? Clear thoughts, clear intelligence, even in that physically difficult situation, continuing to practice devotion. Most of us would have an excuse, right? Who will complain? Prabhupada is not serving, or I cannot do this. And even many devotees even are excused of 16 rounds. In that state, you are terminally ill in the hospital. What will you do? How will you chant 16 rounds? And that is considered, that is excused many times. That is not considered a serious violation of a vow. But to chant even in that state, to continue performing devotion service in that stage, that shows our how transcendental we are from material conditions. Can we continue the practice of bhakti despite all physical miseries, external situations and troubles? Can we continue? So if we are eagerly waiting for a time where there are no troubles, there are no inconveniences, there are no difficulties, only then I can practice bhakti. If that is our state, then we are mokshakamis, desiring for liberation. Liberation means a state of no pain, no miseries. And you have to get rid of that. And Vrajavasis are the devotees who were always in anxiety. Especially before Krishna came, there was no demons attacking Vrindavan. As soon as Krishna took birth, appeared, that's when all the demons started attacking. And you find the Vrajavasis in constant anxiety. Every day it is said Krishna would on an average kill 2 to 3 demons. We find only a list of 20-25 demons in the 10th canto. But on average, every breakfast, when the breakfast would go over a long time, then the Leela Shakti would arrange a demon to come through Kamsa's agents, and then they would break the play, and demon would get killed, and then they would have breakfast. And then in lunchtime, another break. Otherwise, the play would go on throughout the day. And some break has to come. So the demons would be the breaking point of the Leela. So, but when they come home, then they would describe how Krishna killed the demons. So they were in constant anxiety. Just imagine a small child, all the children, and constantly being attacked by such ferocious demons. How can a parent remain anxiety free? So Krishna's appearance in our life will also, we should expect some constant anxiety will be there, constant more and more troubles will be there, more and more miseries will come. But then Krishna protects. That's the faith a devotee has, and we should not give up just because of miserable conditions affecting us in our lives. So bhakti is independent of these 3 things: external purity or varnashram status, and what else? From purificatory rituals. So yes, next paragraph.
In the Middle Age, after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya, the great associate of Lord Nityananda, a class of priestly person claimed to be the descendant of Nityananda, calling themselves the Goswami caste. They further claimed that the practice and the spreading of devotional service belonged only to their particular class, which was known as Nityananda Vamsa. In this way, they exercise their artificial power of same time until Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the powerful Acharya of Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, completely smashed their idea. There was great hard struggle for some time, but it has been turned out successfully, and it is now correctly and practically established that devotional service is not restricted to a particular class of man. Besides that, anyone who is engaged in devotional service is already at the status of being a high class Brahmana. So Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur struggle for this movement has come out successfully.
So this paragraph and the next talks about how piety or pious birth is not a essential criteria for practicing pure devotional service. This story appears in the Leelamrit, Prabhupada Leelamrit, where Bhakti Siddhanta was known for his bold, strong preaching. He was known as Lion Simha Guru. And this is a section we are reading during the lunchtime, Leelamrit, where Bhakti Siddhanta and his followers and his disciples are openly and strongly criticizing the caste system of the Goswami hereditary system. So the Goswami hereditary system is, you have a temple, you are a Goswami of the temple, and your generation will continue performing the pujas and the rituals, and all the property and everything will belong to that family. And no one else has a right. They will decide the norms and the rules and the standards, and no one can be a part of that system. So Bhakti Siddhanta was heavily against this system, and he established how, on the basis of scripture, he would establish how birth is not a qualification for practicing this worship, deity worship or any other ritual. Anyone can, after purification, take up this process. So when he was touring Vrindavan with his disciples, he had a death threat, and some local gundas were planning to kill him. So what they did was they approached the local police officer and bribed him with 25,000 rupees in those days. It was 20s, sometime around that. So police officer, so what they said was, we are paying this money and we are going to do something to him. All you have to do is keep your mouth shut. Do not report. So police officer said, we usually accept bribes, but for a sadhu we cannot do that. He admitted. So what he did was, he didn't accept the bribe, and he came and reported to Bhakti Siddhanta. He said, there is something going on, please take care of yourself. Of course nothing happened, fortunately. And so why? So how, just because of openly criticizing the existing hereditary caste system, he had to go through so much trouble. Even Prabhupada, when he was preaching in the West and he was bringing Western devotees into India, he was offering second initiation to Western devotees, European and American, who are accustomed to eating cow flesh and other bad habits. When they were brought to India and they were given all this sacred thread ceremony, so many devotees in India protested, could not accept how this can happen. Prabhupada defended his position based on scriptural statements. Even Nectar of Instruction, there is a statement how no one should consider a devotee based on his birth. That is hellish mentality. Seeing a devotee, a Western devotee, American devotee, Indian devotee, North Indian, South Indian devotee, and then giving him those qualities. Oh, he is South Indian devotee anyway, he is like that. He is a Western devotee, he is like that. I don't know if you are aware of this our devotee Radha Krishna RKD, not our Radha Krishna, but there is this devotee in North India. He is propagating this idea, and it's quite, he's openly blaspheming the system of Western GBC controlled, Western devotee controlled GBC. Heard of this? It's quite popular in Facebook and other social media. And he has a list of points to prove that how the current GBC is malfunctioning and they are not bona fide. And he is bringing up his own institution, organizing his own organization and collecting followers. So an ISKCON devotee, but somehow these things have crept in. And the philosophy is the same. How, like again, that Western Indian, Western devotees have been eating all this, they were accustomed to all these bad habits. How can they teach and give initiation? It's difficult, it's impossible. They are not qualified just because they are born outside India. Only if someone is born in India, they are qualified to offer initiation and become a guru. Those kind of philosophy is propagating.
One question, like in Mahabharata, the Eklavya, he had a desire to learn. So, but didn't allow it. And his thumb was taken out. So, what was that like? How we can understand?
Yeah, then that applies to even Karna.
Karna, yeah.
Karna, Ekalavya, so many cases are there. We were discussing this point a few weeks back. How it could be there, that thing was there definitely. But if we accept the decision as correct, then we have to conclude that he was rejected because he was not because he was born in a low family, but the character was not shown. Vedic knowledge is given to people who exhibit the character, because knowledge without character is destructive. And if the teacher finds the student not capable of handling the knowledge, and if he suspects that the student will misuse the knowledge, then he has every right to not impart the knowledge. So if we consider those events as justified, then we have to conclude in this way. Karna also, when he challenged Arjun in that assembly, that competition arena, he just came and challenged. He was not invited. And he just challenged. And that attitude of boasting and competition and rivalry, that was not appreciated by anyone except Duryodhana, because he was getting a support. So in that sense, Dronacharya rejected him, because he had to reject him on some basis. So he said, okay, you are not born in a royal family, so you are not qualified. Ekalavya also, what he did, he for a dog, he shot arrows, and a dog was barking, and he shut his mouth, and thus showing that how I have so much Guru Bhakti. He was saying, simply by worshipping your form as a murti, I have learned all these arts and skills, and I have learned everything. I am as good as Arjun. So I have so much Guru Bhakti. But then if Guru Bhakti is so much there, then why doesn't he follow the instruction directly given by Guru? So again, that attitude was competitive and rivalry. That was not appreciated. Because if you have to be a Kshatriya, and if you are going to rule a kingdom, and if your character is not proper, then the subjects are going to suffer. So therefore, this example was given as birth. But if we accept these Pandavas as liberated souls, and if it is organized by Krishna himself, then this is how we justify the whole thing, justify the whole act. So knowledge without character is destructive. A teacher has every right to reject the student. And that's one reason why today's education system is destructive. Because there is no character check.
Today's education is
destructive because there is no character check. That's just important. Just because you pay the fee and you have the desire to learn something, you are given the knowledge. Where is the check of character? Even if there is no character check, where is the cultivation of character? Where is the education to develop character? Everything is missing. So
Duryodhana, even after receiving the knowledge, in future his character was nowhere, like he was destructive.
correct. So he was destructive. That's a bad example. How knowledge can be destructive without proper character. That's an example. So where is that education system? So the biggest terrorists, they also have the knowledge, right? But because the character is not there, they are misusing the knowledge. So the Varnashram system initially, therefore the samskaras are all there. Samskaras meant to give that character, that is all absent in. So Varnashram system is practically non-existent, and the whole system is so topsy-turvy. It is almost impractical to revive the whole thing. Therefore, we have to take the direct path of devotion service.
In fact, in the newspaper it came that there is Atangvadi, that ISI, it works exactly like one corporate company. Absolutely same. Timing and
Everything is so perfect. The whole organization, big terrorist organization work exactly like that.
Yeah.
Everything is systematic, organized, but the motive is totally wrong. So, birth. How birth is not an essential qualification to practice bhakti. Although in scriptures we find the examples of discrimination based on birth, it is not approved. If you are saying Dronacharya's disapproval of Karna or Ekalavya is wrong, then it is wrong, yeah. From one point of view it is wrong. Based on birth he has disapproved. But then he had another responsibility of cultivating the Kshatriyas, the Pandavas and other royal members. So it's up to him to reject. What he did was absolutely right or wrong, we can argue on the basis of scripture. Rejecting Ekalavya could be wrong from one point of view, based on scripture. Birth is not a criteria. So Mahabharata is exactly on the borderline. No? What is right, what is wrong? Not exactly, what do you call it?
Separating both.
We cannot separate. Even Bhishma is a Mahajan. He is one of the 12 Mahajans, right? But Bhishma keeping his mouth shut during the Draupadi insulting episode, it is considered wrong. Now we can ask, how can a Mahajan commit a mistake? How can a liberated pure devotee commit a mistake? But it is considered a mistake. Yudhishthira also committed a mistake. He didn't protest. And Draupadi and all other Pandavas forgave him for that mistake. Yudhishthira is a pure devotee, all Pandavas are pure devotees. Right. So that is birth. Let us continue. Third paragraph.
It is on the basis of his position that anyone can now become a Gaudiya Vaishnava from any part of the world or any part of the universe. Anyone who is pure Vaishnava is situated transcendentally and therefore the highest qualification in the material world, namely to be in the mode of goodness, has already been achieved by such a person. Our Krishna consciousness movement in the Western world is based on the above mentioned proposition of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada, our spiritual master. On his authority, we are claiming members from all sections of the Western countries. The so-called Brahmanas claim that one who is not born into a Brahmana family cannot receive the sacred thread and cannot become a high-grade Vaishnava. But we do not accept such a theory because it is not supported by Rupa Goswami nor by the strength of the various scriptures.
There was another instance during Saraswati Thakur's time when Bhakti Vinod Thakur was almost on his last days. There was this debate, a challenge posed to him. There was a debate going to happen at a place called Midnapur. And they had organized a debate on the topic, who is superior, a Brahman or a Vaishnav? And Bhakti Vinod Thakur was supposed to speak on that subject, but because he was so ill, he said, he told Saraswati Thakur, you go and present the topic. Actually Saraswati Thakur suggested, can I go and present? And he gave a list of points to Bhakti Vinod Thakur. These are the points I am planning to speak, you approve it. And Bhakti Vinod Thakur was impressed and said, yeah, you can go and speak. And he went there, and at the time of his presentation, he first started glorifying the Brahmanas. How Brahmanas are so elevated, so qualified, and then he listed out all the qualities, the high position a Brahmana should get, the respect and the position, how we should offer everything. Everything he said. And then he started quoting scriptural verses. Who is a Brahmana? Ideal qualities of a Brahmana. And then he started talking about Vaishnavas. Who is a Vaishnava? How they are above Brahmanas? How they are transcendental to the Varnashram system. That's when the caste Goswamis understood that he is not supporting us actually. He is going against us. He is criticizing us. And so initially it appeared that he was glorifying.
Yeah,
He was glorifying. So initially he did that cushion, added the cushion, and then he started actually glorifying Vaishnavas and criticizing the caste system. And after the end of the whole session, everyone was so happy in the general mass of audience, and they were so happy. Throngs of people started coming to the stage, and they were trying to take the dust off his feet, and the police had to come and stop. And then what they did was they gave him a bucket of water and said to dip your feet, and then they started sprinkling the water to everyone just to control the crowd. That's when they got peaceful. So how caste system is such a degrading, degenerating thought. How it can spoil an entire organization. That hereditary thing. It can creep in even into our society. In our temple or any ISKCON organization, pure spiritual, we may talk about purity and becoming transcendental to the modes, but somehow or other that mentality can creep in. My counselor is the best, my guru is the best, my preacher is the best. That attitude is caste system. And my thing is the best, my region is the best, my group of devotees is the best. That disease is there. It's an indicator of the disease. And so many preaching programs have suffered. So many congregation programs have suffered just because of that friction between two classes of people. It can happen between grihasthas and brahmacharis, the renounced order and the grihasthas. All these things comes externally. It may appear like this said like this person said like this, but ultimately the root cause of the disease is the same. I am superior, you are inferior. That mentality creeps in. So therefore we should be extremely careful about.
This mentality comes in between two temples also.
Two temples also, yeah.
Yes.
True.
Yeah. Our temple like that.
Yeah. True temple. My temple is the best. My guru is the best. Within my guru, my counselor is the best. Within my counselor, I am the best. Ultimately, I am the best. I am a pure devotee. So it's just the disease coming up. Yes. You read it, right?
Yeah.
Can someone please read?
Srila Rupa Goswami specially mentions herein that every man has the birthright to accept devotional service and to become Krishna consciousness. He has given many evidences from many scriptures, and he has especially quoted one passage from Padma Purana, wherein the sage Vasishtha tells the king Dilipa, "My dear king, everyone has the right to execute devotional service, just as he has right to take early bath in the month of Magha, December to January. There is more evidence in the Skanda Purana in the Kashi Khanda portion, where it is said, in the country known as Mayura Dwaja, the lower caste people who are considered less than Shudras are also initiated in the Vaishnava cult of devotional service. And when they are properly dressed with tilaka on their bodies and beads on their hands and on their necks, they appear to be coming from Vaikuntha. In fact, they look so very beautiful that immediately they surpass the ordinary brahmanas."
So the offering of initiation is our system of proving that anyone can become a devotee. At least Prabhupada established. Offering first initiation and second initiation both. Especially the second initiation thing proves solidly, strongly that we are not following the caste system. Prabhupada even made this revolutionary thing of offering second initiation to women. That was unheard of. Right? In the Vedic system, that is not a standard practice. But because of preaching needs and because our main preaching mission, Prabhupada introduced the system, and he had to receive so much criticism for that.
Earlier to Bhaktishastri never.
I am not sure. I don't think so. Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur's time it is there. So it's a totally new thing. And women offering arti, at least in India still it is a taboo, but in the West it is quite common. And so out of fear of social protest, and that system is not widespread even in India, even within ISKCON temples, but in the West it is a common thing. And That shows. Otherwise, people are just looking for opportunities to criticize. Where are you discriminating between, especially in today's time, gender discrimination is a hot issue, and they just need an excuse to make it a big, blow it out of proportion. And so, at least ISKCON is safe in that matters, because anyone, a Grihastha may be maintaining a temple, managing a temple, but his child, son or daughter, does not mean, and they will inherit the temple. The system has to be followed. GBC resolutions are there and everything. We have to go through the proper system. And anyone can become a pujari, anyone can start worshipping the deity, dress the deities, and offer the food. Do everything. Give a class. Bhagavatam class is considered a respectable seva. But then everyone is qualified. If you meet the criteria, you are allowed to do that seva.
Okay,
I have a
Mayur
question.
Dhwaj.
Yeah?
Mayur Dhwaj is something, the country name. What was that?
No, there are drama Govind Prabhu did.
Yeah.
In the country known as the lower caste people who are considered essential.
Achha.
I have not seen the drama, but I think it's that thing.
yeah.
Reference.
So he's talking about that.
Yeah.
That country was like that.
See, my question is, I'm a little confused. See, it says you stand up for your principles or things and at the same time it says tolerate. Okay, so it is contradictory in some way. Supposing you are staying with the family members, you can see that this is not correct. If you stand up, there's a lot of chaos, and if you keep quiet, there's a lot of tolerance required on your end, which will disturb your mental peace. Now, what do we do?
Just tolerate or protest.
Yeah, protest means stand up for yourself. When you stand up for yourself, they're a very strong thing to suppress you and ignore your this thing. So what do you go through?
Yeah, it's a very delicate situation. As long as it doesn't force us to break the regulative principles, basic principles, we can tolerate. If you're not compromising on our devotional principles, if the situation is not forcing us to compromise on our devotional principles, I guess we have to tolerate. If the other person is ready to hear, maybe we can offer our opinion and advice. Personal inconveniences have to be tolerated. If it is on someone else, injustice is happening on someone else, then we can protest.
There's injustice in the way you cannot bear.
Oh yeah, then maybe we have to invite a third party.
Third party.
Someone superior who the other person also respects.
Yes.
Otherwise, if we just say and we just cry out and complain, it may not solve the issue. Most of relationship issues, conflicts are solved by a third party intervention whom both party respects. Why a third party? Because third party's opinions are objective. Objective means unbiased. So if I have a problem with someone else, and if I try to prove my point, and he will try to prove his point, both are subjective opinions. So therefore, because I am attached to that thing, I'm attached to the facility, my position, so therefore our opinions will be biased. Because there is no detachment. Why a third party is brought in? Because he is detached from success and failure, from profit and loss. So therefore third party intervention is usually...
No, but somewhere, that thing, that ego comes. How did you bring in the third party? What made you bring in the third
No, it's a mutually agreeable third party. Both of us should agree, okay, this is a reliable third party. So in this case, we bring in a counselor, probably for example, or a guru, or some body. In ISKCON we have a body called ISKCON Resolve. Heard of it? Rajvihari Prabhu, not our Rajvihari, Vrindavan Rajvihari Prabhu is there. He is heading that group, ISKCON Resolve. So many conflicts happen in society, even in our society. Nothing is ideal, no one is ideal. So husband-wife problems, guru-disciple problems, devotee problems, grihastha brahmachari problems, whatever. So third person, it's called ombudsman. Heard of this? And that person acts as a mediator. So keeping strict confidentiality and privacy of each party's opinion, and they will discuss and try to bring up a mutually acceptable solution.
That
Kaliuga
is
is-
possible in, is possible in Chopati also.
Chowpatty also we have certain ombudsmen. There are
And how do you spell it? Ombuds?
OMBUDSMAN, ombudsman.
In insurance, there is a
There may not be official ombudsman here,
Yeah,
but there is. But usually the ombudsman is a counselor. Counselor is usually the mediator, or some senior person whom both of us trust. There should be trust. Yeah. Trust level has to be there. So, devotees practicing bhakti for years, then the issues arise. In the initial stage, you won't find any issues because everyone is a pure devotee in our eyes. After some time, we start finding faults. Oh, it's not as pure as I thought. You're not so advanced as I thought.
I like
And
that.
then we start finding faults, and initially everyone's supposed to have descended from Vaikuntha for my deliverance. And there is no issue absolutely. Because there is no offenses, there is no pride, there is no false ego, at least in the beginning. It doesn't manifest clearly. But then after some time we are familiar with everything, we know the practices, we have visited all dhams, we have celebrated all festivals, and we are familiar with everyone, the main people. And then we have to interact, we start doing seva with each other, then those things come out. And then our attitude changes, our reactions change, and then that leads to conflicts. And then you need an ombudsman. So ultimately it's all attitude issue, false ego, lording it over. So many issues have come up. Even within the congregation, so many congregation programs, other ISKCON satellite centers connected to our temple, the issues keep coming and going. And then ultimately some preacher is changed, some new authorities brought in.
So the ombudsmen, they actually guide both of them, stating that where this person is wrong and where this
Yeah. Usually it is miscommunication. Just don't open up. And then the issue blows out of so much proportion. And then the third party has to be brought in. Otherwise, if it is actually most issues can be resolved between the two. They just don't communicate at the right time and the right situation. In the name of tolerance, it is suppressed.
Yeah.
I have to tolerate. But then, how long can you tolerate?
There is a limit.
Yeah.
And it does affect all your areas. We don't realize, but it affects all our areas, performance of all our areas.
Japa is the first thing that gets affected.
One of my friends is very nice thing. He said if you want to correct someone, he said correct him in a humbly, not in a boasting way. You are wrong.
Yeah.
No, but you try humbly many times.
Yeah, I mean then.
But then you have to blow up.
Yeah,
Then you cannot help yourself.
There is a principle. You first give a positive feedback, and then you tell what you want to say, and then again you appreciate.
Okay.
This is management principle. To tell negative, first tell something positive.
Positive.
But then have the same like.
And then tell not negative, area of improvement. That's the term. Area of improvement. It's not a negative thing.
What's missing?
Huh?
What's missing?
What's missing or how you can improve. And then again appreciate. Oh, you are such a nice devotee. So it should not be done artificially. It should come genuinely.
Naturally.
There are actually the scriptures also there for the Sama, Veda, Dhana, Dandopaya.
Sam, Dam, Dandavedya.
That process also.
Yeah. So in corporates they do this, and it's a science. You don't give negative feedback. When a boss calls you because of some misbehavior, he will appreciate, oh, you have done so much, contributed so much for the company, and did this. Here is something that is lacking. This is where you are lacking. How can we help you to improve? Do you need extra counseling? Do you need a training session? Do you need what is the thing? Are you facing any personal problem? We would like to help you, and that is genuinely shown. Because so indirectly the person understands I am contributing to the efficiency, I am affecting the efficiency of the organization. That guilt feeling should arise. And then you help. So even in the temple happens, even in the ashram it happens. You are some misbehavior it happens, then they call you. Because most misbehavior may not be intentional. Some anarthas coming out. So anarthas are there. It comes out in the form of misbehavior. So the root, the sin, what is it? Hate the sin, not the sinner. Biblical statement. So we have to identify that anartha. What is the problem in that person? And address that. The reaction appears in various forms. The misbehavior appears in various forms. Either in the form of a loud, angry shout, angry reaction, or in the form of not attending the morning program, some attitude, some issue. The root has to be identified. Then we can address the point. And that has to be done with an element of compassion. Compassion ke bina it's impossible.
But lot of patience.
Patience also, yeah.
My God. Patience.
And how parents, how mother and father treat a child, that's exactly how we have to treat people also. It's not easy. Therefore, better to stay away from management. Manager means you have to deal with all this shit. Of course, we should not give headaches to the management from our side. But if we can just maintain that humility. Therefore, Trinadapi Sunijena is a core of our devotional practice. Humility and respecting others. If you respect others, all issues are solved. And if you don't expect others, respect for ourselves. Right? This is the core principle. Appreciation is kind of expecting a respect. Right? Anyone wants to add anything on this part? Personal experience you have? Okay, let's go ahead.
Does the Vaishnava automatically becomes a Brahmana? This idea is also supported by Sanatana Goswami Hare Bhakti Vilasa, which is the Vaishnava guide. Therein he has clearly stated that any person who is properly initiated into the Vaishnava cult certainly becomes a Brahmana. As the metal known as Kamsa, bell metal is turned into gold by the nature of Mercury. A bona fide spiritual master under the guidance of authorities can turn anyone to the Vaishnava cult so that naturally he may come to the topmost position of the Brahmana.
This is Sanatana Goswami's verse. How bell metal, when in touch with mercury, turns into gold. Similarly, uncultured person, when he comes in touch with a bona fide pure devotee and accepts initiation, he becomes a pure devotee. Now we don't have an experience of bell metal turning into gold by coming in touch with mercury, but it seems that was a science few hundred years ago. And there was a group of chemists called alchemists who tried this experiment by this formula. They were trying to convert iron into gold through mercury and other chemical reactions, but it didn't turn out successful. But it seems it was there, a practice, few hundred or thousand years ago. Bell metal turning into gold through application of mercury. So a pure devotee can transform a non-devotee or a low-class, uncultured person by that process of initiation. That's the point here. Next.
Srila Rupa Goswami warns, however, that if a person is properly initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, he should not think that simply by the acceptance of such initiation, his business is then finished. One still has to follow the rules and regulations very carefully. If after accepting the spiritual master and being initiated, one does not follow the rules and regulations of devotional service, then he is again fallen. One must be very vigilant to remember that he is the part and parcel of the transcendental body of Krishna, and that is his duty as part and parcel to give service to the whole or Krishna. If we do not render service to Krishna, then again we fall down.
In other words, simply becoming initiated does not elevate one to the position of high-class Brahmana. One also has to discharge the duties and follow the regulative principles very rigidly.
This is a risk we can face sometime in the future. Now that our movement is small, it's not a huge organization. It is huge to some extent, but among the masses we are a minority, still a small minority. But once it grows beyond a certain proportion, then that initiation thing can become a status symbol. I am initiated, I am not, you are not initiated. And based on that we may probably start discriminating. It is already happening to some extent, but we should be careful. You are a second initiate, you are a sannyasi, you are a senior devotee, counselor. So these things, it's all caste system. Everything is caste system. So risk is there. And those things come up because of the anarthas within, the tendency to lord over material nature, to show that I have a position, I want to control. It happens unknowingly many times. The philosophy is clear to everyone, but unknowingly it happens. So it has to be rectified. Yes.
Sri Rupa Goswami also says that if one is regularly researching devotional service, there will be no question of fall down. But even if it circumstantially there is some fall down, the Vaishnava need have nothing to do with their prior chitta, the ritualistic ceremony for purification. If someone falls down from the principles of devotional service, he need not take to prior chitta performance for reform myself. He simply has to execute the rules and regulations for discharging devotional service, and this is sufficient for his reinstatement. This is the ministry of the Vaishnava cult.
So from here on, Rupa Goswami is talking about the bhakti's independence from purity, prayaschitta, purificatory rituals. So first we saw birth, how bhakti is independent of birth and other qualifications. How one need not go through purificatory rituals in order to practice bhakti. From this paragraph onwards, second point of the bhakti's independence. So today's time we don't find any ritual. There is Garbhadan Sanskar, there is Namkaran Sanskar, there is what else? Vivaha Sanskar, there is Shraddha Samskar. Anything else?
Marriage ceremony.
Yeah, Vivaha. So there are many samskars a living entity has to go through in order to clean all those negative impressions from the past life. So all these rituals are purificatory ceremonies. Garbhadan Sanskar is done before a child is conceived. That is too revolutionary. Before mother and father come together to procreate, beget a child, it is done before that. And the attitude and the thoughts and the consciousness of the parents are considered so that a pure living entity descends into the womb. That is something unheard of. You can't imagine people understanding even this concept. Right? When a child grows up and starts exhibiting demonic qualities, and he kahan se aa gaya? We never did this at home. We never trained these people. Who is kahan se seekh raha hai? We all get these questions. He exhibits pakka demon qualities, he or she, and then we wonder, how is this coming up? Who taught them? It's all past life, and there was no samskar done to purify the child. Right? So this now, I think someone was telling me somewhere in the US they did a research, and it's all the same thing that we do here, only thing nicely marketed and packaged. Same samskars, but given a nice polished name, fancy name, and it's all the same science that we have been doing for the last thousands of years. So these samskars, a part of the Vedic culture, helped a living entity purify its existence and eventually go towards the ultimate goal of life. So that is missing now in today's times. All samskars, even Vivaha samskar is under threat, about to collapse. And that's the only probably last existing samskar, and that is also under threat. So live in relationships and all these things are becoming popular, and because no living a male and female cannot stay together without in proper relation with in harmony. So spending so much money on a marriage which is going to end in 6 months, people find what is the use? They stay together, experiment with each other, and think whether to continue the relationship. And in today's times of inflation, high inflation, why spend? Why spend so much money? Right? So live in, continue. So samskar is missing. Ultimately, it is meant just to stay together, help each other, enjoy together. So why go through all these elaborate rituals? Gaur Gopal Prabhu, I think Radha Gopal Prabhu was telling this. How in a marriage ceremony, the boy and girl are coming together, they are taking vows, and the Pujari is doing all those rituals. And one devotee who was in the audience, he pointed out, this man who is reciting the verses, he is reciting the verses meant to be chanted during a funeral ceremony. And that man pointed out to the brides, the girl's father, do you know what's happening? Such an auspicious event, and this is what is happening. So that man thought about it, the father, and said, yeah, it's a serious thing. Jane do. What to do? Anyway, we just had to do it. It's all the ritual. Who cares?
But that is so horrible of it.
Huh?
Horrible.
Who is horrible? Everything is horrible in Kali Yuga. Everything is a topsy-turvy. One horrible thing above hundreds of horrible things, it hardly matters.
No, but he's giving that vibration to me.
Yeah, so no one has the faith. It's just a empty ritual. So then there's no point in giving up. I mean, there's no sense in continuing the ritual. What's the harm in giving it up? Anyway, people who are doing it blindly. So what if you don't do it? Why unnecessarily spend on a blind ritual? That is a question naturally anyone will have.
And Prabhu, my relative, I heard that, they says कि भाई जल्दी खत्म करना है marathon में, पैसा लगता है थोड़ा ज़्यादा ले लेना, but ज़्यादा time मत लेना.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I said, wow.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
very common.
Surprised.
कितना ये महाराज
I
इतना
really in shock.
time. Yeah. They say this one takes lesser time, so that.
Yeah.
हाँ, they pay them. ये फटाफट करता है.
Because the main event is later. The feast and the dance party and the drinks.
Correct.
That is the main exciting thing. Who cares about all these rituals? Just a show-off thing. So that ritual is missing. Garbhadan is already forgotten. No one knows about it. And the Namkaran, maybe. And Shraddha is also almost gone. 13th day celebration some people do. And they want to get rid of it. And who does it every year? And so many ancestors. If you do it every year for everyone, then the whole year will be packed with Shraddha ceremony. How long to do? How many years to do? And expenditure is rising. Inflation is rising. Prices are rising.
Nobody has the time to do.
Nobody has time, nobody has the money, nobody has the patience.
No, even inclination भी नहीं है.
Inclination भी नहीं है. Because anything to continue, you need education.
Actually.
That is not there.
Why should?
Why something has to be done?
Yeah.
What is the science behind it? What is the advantage? What is the benefit? So therefore, the life after death concept, everything, it's all interconnected. Soul concept is there, God concept is there. Then why is soul, life after death, accountability arises, sinful reactions, heavenly life, hellish life. You remove the concept of the soul, life after death, everything will collapse. Ultimately, life is here only. This is the end, one and all. There's a be all and end all of everything. And who has seen the afterlife? Why do all this?
That is a common thing.
Yeah, that is
Tomorrow,
who has seen tomorrow?
Just do it.
So samskars, a person who goes through all the samskars regularly, properly, by the end of his life, it's quite a cultured person. It's a nice product. If you see consciousness as a product, that has to be tested. over a period of 60-70 years, if he has gone through all systematic rituals, then he is quite cultured and his next destination is quite auspicious. It is elevating. So this point Prabhupada Goswami is saying, it is not necessary to go through the rituals if you are practicing bhakti. That's the whole idea. Because bhakti is purifying enough to give you the benefit of all samskars. Pure devotion service is the purifying force. So in that sense it is hope giving. Because we don't have to go through. We don't have the science to know it, to perform. We don't have people who can perform these rituals. There are the people who can perform all the samskars, who can recite the mantras properly, who won't chant a funeral prayer at the time of the marriage ceremony. We don't have such people. Who knows Sanskrit to understand all this? So better you give up. Anyway, Kali Yuga is washing away everything. Continue, but practice the essence, the main purifying thing, that is devotion service. That will take care of all other things. Yes.
Practically, there are three processes for elevating one to the platform of spiritual consciousness. These processes are called karma, jnana, and bhakti. Ritualistic performances are in the field of karma. Speculative processes are in the field of jnana. One who has taken to bhakti, the devotional service of the Lord, need have nothing to do with karma or jnana. It has been already explained that pure devotional service is without any tinge of karma or jnana. Bhakti should have no tinge of philosophical speculation or ritualistic performance.
Yeah, tinge of karma means a desire to enjoy material facilities. And tinge of jnana means the desire to enjoy liberation, desire to get liberation. So pure devotees reject both karma and jnana. Rejecting jnana doesn't mean rejecting the conclusions of jnana. Jnana means the searching out of knowledge and collecting information. That's what we mean by jnana. Not the conclusion that Krishna is God, I am a servant. That jnana we should not give up. That is essential. That's a part of bhakti. But collecting and accumulating information, that attitude has to be given up, and the desire for liberation, that has to be given up. Karma and jnana represent these two things.
Small question. Like, nowadays in a train, they distribute a book where they say, Aarti karte, why they offer this and that, why? All the answers. So, I just want to ask that something book like we also have, because that is all like the interpretation is there. But
we have one book by Bhakti Vikas Maharaj, Beginner's Guide to Krishna Consciousness. And one more book he has written, no?
Chant and be happy. There are so many books.
Yeah, small.
But then all this thing happened. Why Aarti we offer that?
Yes.
To some,
Even
at least ISKCON Aartis are explained.
And Grihastha, how one should be in Grihastha, everything is written.
That is like, one should do that, Aarti karna chahiye. But why? What is the purpose of Aarti and water and Ekadashi, importance of Ekadashi? Why one should do that?
To some extent it is there. From an ISKCON perspective. Even that book, our Vaishnava Etiquette Manual.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that is also a good book. There's quite a good information why one should do.
How entering the temple you should not, why you should not go down to Srila Prabhu.
But it is ISKCON specific.
ISKCON.
We can generalize. It has?
Which one?
Book name is Samskar.
Yeah, you have that book. Samskar ka ek alag book. It's a big book, but not a small one. Not the one that you find in local train. Not that size, but books, detailed science. Everything is ISKCON specific. If you want to sell it in public, then probably we may have to customize and generalize the whole thing.
It's available in the gift shop. Sanskrit.
Which one? I don't know.
Yes, it is there.
Yeah.
Sure.
All the English?
English.
English. Good.
Ekadashi Mahatmya, there is a book. I don't know.
Ekadashi Mahatmya?
Which one?
Ekadashi Mahatmya.
Yeah, that is a...
Ekadashi Mahatmya.
No, see, my question is because, the youngster, tell them, it is such a...
True.
We can just read Ekadashi Mahatmya.
Yeah. So as time progresses, this need is felt. And the need for more outreach books, outreach pamphlets. We have some of our devotees go to do village preaching, and we don't have ISKCON books for village preaching. Devotees are not written in book exclusively for village preaching. But there is this organization, I don't know the name, but they have a set of 10 sets of books. One book, as you said, one book is talking about the basic philosophy. God, demigods, of course, Mayavad enters there, and then there is basic hygiene, some books, basic rituals, Tulsi worship, Ekadashi, fasting, and all those things, and then basic cooking, basic environmental sensitivity. So in this way they are classified into 10 subjects. Small, 20-30 pages ka book, and in small paragraphs, basic things are explained.
One of my friend went to US, so the people over there, they ask, Aarti was a goal, why goal? Why not as a triangle, square, why goal? So like, they ask any question. They ask any question, so you have to answer.
No, and there was a person coming. I said, he's the Supreme Lord. He said, I am Supreme. I'm talking to him, saying, I am Supreme. I said, this is going reverse. They talk something, it really takes you away.
So,
and we are not obliged to answer every question.
Yeah, that's true.
That we need to remember. We feel we are checkmated when someone asks a question and we don't have an answer. No. Like Prabhupada, once he was in, I think MIT. Someone asked him, why do you have, what he asked? Why do you have Shikha? Shikha? Tilak. And Prabhupada counter question, he said, why do you have a tie hanging around your neck? And he didn't have an answer. So not that we have to counter question every time, but it's not, we are not obliged to answer every question. Now, why Krishna is playing flute? Why not a guitar? Why not a harmonium? Anything you can ask. Why peacock feather? Why not something else? Why only yellow dhoti? Any silly question you can ask. Right?
But we should be knowledgeable.
We should be knowledgeable, but
that is, I think,
everyone has his own likes and dislikes. So yes, Krishna likes flute. That's the answer. Now, we don't have to search of scriptural references. Oh, why flute? Which flute? Venu and Murali and all those flutes. You don't have to give him the detailed answer. Unnecessary. Now, if Krishna starts playing guitar, he will ask, why guitar? What will he answer then? There's no end to that series of questions. Why certain, Krishna is a person. And he has certain likes and dislikes. And just because he is doing something, that doesn't mean he disapproves every other thing. That shows God is a person. He has certain interests, likes. So, we need not feel checkmated. I don't have an answer. Oh no, let me ask, and that will put him, that will give him more confidence. He gets more confidence. Finally I caught you. That's the attitude they show. Caught you. You don't have answer. Even if you give the answer, he's not going to change. He is stubbornly stuck to his position. So yes, so purity, bhakti is independent of purity. I think the next paragraph also talks about purity. In this connection,
Sri Rupa Goswami gives evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 21st chapter, verse 2, in which Lord Krishna says to Uddhava, the distinction between qualification and disqualification may be made in this way. Persons who are already elevated in discharging devotional service will never again take shelter of the process of spiritual activity or philosophical speculation. If one sticks to devotional service and is conducted by regulative principles given by the authorities, the acharyas, that is the best qualification.
So all these are references from the Bhagavatam and other. From next paragraph onwards, we have how bhakti is independent of one's varnashram position. Again, it is less relevant today because no one is following the varnashram system. We don't know our varnashram position, whether we are a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Even if we know, it hardly matters. So, and it's hardly relevant. But when the book was written, at least all these things mattered. And Vedic culture, varnashram played a critical role. Like we see the Mahabharata thing. Ekalavya, Karna, all these stories show Varnashram position mattered a lot. If you are in a Kshatriya family, that's what makes you qualified to accept a teacher, go to a Gurukul and get the education. If you are a Brahmana, you are allowed to perform deity worship in the temples, all those things. And if you are none of those, you are a Shudra. You just have to perform menial service. So Varnashram did matter in Vedic times, and Brahmanas were considered in a more advantageous position to achieve spiritual perfection compared to Shudras. And it did make sense because Shudra, even if it is not based on birth, Shudra is a kind of consciousness. Brahman is a measure of consciousness. Kshatriya is a measure of consciousness, the purity of the consciousness. So Shamo Damas Tapas Shaucham Shantir Arjavam Evacha Jnanam Vijnanam Astikyam Brahma Karma Swabhajam, Gita verse. So all these qualities, if a person is exhibiting, such a person is a Brahmana, not someone who is born in a Brahmana family. Similarly for Kshatriyas, these qualities is the measure of a person's Varnashram situation. So if someone is exhibiting Shamo, Damo, Tapa, Shauch, all these things, that means he is quite advanced. For him, practicing the regulative principles is so easy. Right? He already has faith, religiosity is there, and sense control is there. All these things are there already. For him to advance in spiritual life is so easy. So the Varnashram position mattered. But in Kali Yuga, everyone is a Shudra. Janmana Jayate Shudra. And there is no samskar. Dvija is not going to become a Dvija, Vipra and Brahmana. Nothing is there. So therefore Rupa Goswami says, Bhakti is independent of your Varnashram position. Anyone can take up devotional service irrespective of your Varnashram social position. Yes.
This statement is supported in Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 5th chapter, verse 17, wherein Sri Narada Muni advised Vyasdev thus: even if one does not execute his specific occupational duty, but immediately takes a direct shelter of lotus feet of Hare Krishna, there will be no fault on his part, and in all circumstances his position is secure. Even if by some bad association he falls down while executing devotion service, or if he does not finish the complete course of devotion service and dies untimely, still he is not at all lost. A person who is simply discharging his occupational duties in Varna and Ashrama, however, with no Krishna consciousness, partially does not gain practical benefit of human life. The purport is that all conditioned souls who are engaged very fanatically in activities of the sense gratification without knowing that his process will never help them to get out of material contamination are avoided only with repeated
births and deaths. So the famous verse in the Bhagavatam, 1st canto, Tyaktva Swadharmam Charanambujam Harer Bhajanna Pakkotha Pattet Tato Yadhi. Narad Muni is saying, Tyaktva Swadharmam, one who has rejected Swadharma. Swadharma means the Varnashram Dharma. Charanambujam Harer, and he has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Hari. And Bhajan Apakkotha. His bhajan or devotional service is apakwa. He is not fully mature. He has not perfected his devotional service. And then patet tato yadi. If he falls down, then yatrakva va abhadram. What is the abhadra? What is the loss? Abhuda Mushyaking, compared to a person who ko vartha apto abhajatam sudharmata, compared to a person who has perfectly followed his varnashram duties, but abhajatam swadharmata. So a person who rejected his varnashram duties and took to devotion service, but could not complete his devotion service. That is one case. Another is someone is performing his devotion service varnashram duties perfectly, but doesn't take to devotion service. Among the two, who is better? First one is better. Why?
Surrender to Krishna.
He surrendered to Krishna. And Krishna will protect him. In his next life, that will continue. Yeah, Neha Vikarma Shurti. Swalpamapyasya. So even if he performs, even if it is not completely perfected, that will carry forward. And from that point onwards, his spiritual life will continue. On the other hand, someone who has perfectly performed varnashram duties but doesn't take to devotion service, he has to just go through the repeated cycle of birth and death. Again, he has to start off from the beginning, from zero. So, therefore, this verse is taken as the main evidence for showing varnashram is varnashram social position doesn't matter. It's unimportant. It's irrelevant.
But Prabhuji, how come the varnashram system is designed in such a way that if you are perfect in your varnashram, it means you are progressing spiritually also. So how come one is perfect in varnashram but is not taking to Krishna consciousness? Isn't it
when we say perfect in varnashram means following all the rules and regulations, the rituals, getting up early in the morning, chant the mantras, but the main essence is missing. The worship of Lord Hare, Lord Krishna is missing. But the externals, he does perfectly. He may even follow, he may be pure vegetarian, he may not kill anyone, he may do charity, everything is there. But that Krishna factor is missing. That's what here it means when doing the varnashram duties perfectly. The devotion to Krishna, the essence is missing. That essence is unaware of. Then it is a repeated cycle of birth and death. He may gradually advance little bit, but it's almost like a static thing. So from here onwards, all are references. 5th canto Srimad Bhagavatam reference, then 11th canto Bhagavatam reference, then again 11th canto reference, Navayogendras, Shankaracharya Gautam Muni. All are references. References to prove these points. If you open the notes, there is quite clear points available. Overview is given, chapter 5. Bhakti's independence from pious birth. Next is Bhakti's independence from rituals of purification and the effect of varnashram. One verse is interesting here on page 51. Page 51 talks about clearing debts. Page 50 ka end and 51 ka first paragraph. Let us read that. That is important.
Okay. The same thing is still more emphatically confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 5th chapter, verse 4, in which
Karabhajana Muni
addresses Maharaja Nimi as follows. My dear king, if someone gives up his occupational duties as they are prescribed for the different varnas and ashramas, but takes complete shelter, surrendering himself unto the lotus feet of the Lord, such a person is no more a debtor, nor has he any obligation to perform the different kinds of activities we render to the great sages, ancestors, living entities and family and society members. Nor has he any need to bother executing the 5 kinds of yajnas, sacrifices, for becoming free from sinful contamination. Simply by discharging devotional service, he is freed from all kinds of obligations. The purport is that as soon as a man takes his birth, he is immediately indebted to so many sources. He is indebted to the great sages because he profits by reading their authoritative scriptures and books. For example, we take advantage of the books written by Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva has left for us all the Vedas. Before Vyasadeva's writing, the Vedic literature was simply heard, and the disciples would learn the mantras quickly by hearing and not by reading. Later on, Vyasadeva thought it wise to write down to the Vedas because in this age, people are short memoried and unable to remember all the instructions given by the spiritual master. Therefore, he left all the Vedic knowledge in the form of books such as Puranas, Vedanta, Mahabharata and Srimad Bhagavatam.
So this happens in the beginning of Kali Yuga, immediately after the end of Dwapar Yuga. After Krishna's disappearance, it is said Vyasadeva compiled all Vedic knowledge into book form. He wrote the 4 Vedas, divided the original Veda into 4, and then wrote the Upanishads, wrote the Puranas, and wrote the Vedanta Sutra, compiled the Mahabharata, and still he felt dissatisfied, and he is feeling something empty. And that's when Narad Muni comes there, and he advises, you are feeling empty because you have not done one important thing. You have not glorified Krishna enough. So now you write a book that exclusively glorifies Krishna. Other books are indirect glorification. So many rituals are there. You do this, if you do this, then you will get this, if you do this, you will get this. So many rituals, material, karma kanda rituals. But exclusive glorification of Krishna is missing in your collection of books. So you do that. That's when he writes the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that makes him completely satisfied. So this verse, Karvajan Muni is speaking to Maharaj Nimi. I think this is a verse of that Devarshi Bhutaptar Nrinam Pitrunam. Deva, demigods, rishis, sages, Bhuta. Bhuta is what? Living entities. Apta, family. Nrinam, society members. Pitrunam, ancestors. Every one of us is indebted to each of these classes of people. We owe something to all these people. And before death, if we don't clear the debt, then we have to come back to the material world. So Devas, for the demigods, sunlight, moonlight, fire, rain, everything, we owe, but we are not paying them back. Rishis, they have given shastric knowledge, spiritual knowledge. If you don't study, that means we owe the debt. Living entities, so many living entities are helping in our stay here. We take support from other living entities. Family members, definitely, society members, and ancestors for giving us, passing down the samskars. And if you don't clear the debt, we are, क्या बोलते हैं इसको? Rinis. We are indebted. So therefore, unless you clear the debt, we are not free. And we have to come back to clear the debt. So this verse says, if you worship Krishna, Mukunda, then all debts are immediately cleared, without separately endeavoring to clear each debt. That's the important point. So studying scripture is a way to clear the debt to sages. Just like if I write a book, bestseller book, and I gift it to you, and you just throw it into Raddi, it's like an insult, right? I don't study. So when someone studies something that I have written, I have painstakingly written, and that's how you express your gratitude and happiness for receiving something. If I cook something and if you eat it, then you express your gratitude that way. Any offering, when it is done, if it is accepted in the right manner, that's how you clear the debt. So by studying scripture, we are clearing the debts of our sages.
Then Prabhupada also says that even whatever he is translating, again he reads it, saying that it is actually Krishna's.
Yeah, today you got the WhatsApp message. Today I just received a message on WhatsApp. How Prabhupada is saying, he is reading something and he asks someone, so which is the verse? So no one is able to answer. 2-3 devotees are sitting there, no one is able to answer which verse. So then Prabhupada says, if you have not read the books, how will you preach? I am writing these books and you are not studying? You don't know the verse and the number? And the number, both. So no one knew the verse number. So Prabhupada is saying, even I keep on reading my books. Because when I write the books, Krishna comes and he personally dictates what I should write. And therefore, when I read my books, I keep learning newer and newer things. So if you don't read, how will you preach? That's the whole thing. So, quoting at least relevant verses and studying, applying. In the Gita, you find that verse. Krishna says, one who studies this great conversation between us is worshipping me with intelligence. One worships Krishna by intelligence, by studying the Gita. This divine conversation of ours, Arjuna and Krishna. So every element of our existence can be utilized for worship. When you do the Aarti, you know the elements, each item represents what?
Panchabuta.
What is that? First, dhoop, flower and cloth. These three represent the earth. Then water is there. Water represents water. Fire, lamp is there. That represents fire. What's water? Fire. Air. Chamar and peacock feather represent the air element. And the shank and the bell represent the sound, ether element. Then the mantras chanted while offering Aarti represent the mind element. The purpose, the intellectual purpose behind worshipping an Aarti, worshipping the Lord, represents the intelligence element. And when you offer pranams, that represents the false ego. And the pujari represents the assembled worshippers who are standing outside. So every element of our existence has to be offered. So that's almost the whole chapter. How bhakti is independent of birth, prayaschitta rituals, and our varnashram social position.
This Shastra which everyone, the Vyasdev has written, there was a Matsya avatar has appeared, right? To see all the Shastra. So like, can you just tell what was it like? Who stolen that interaction?
There was a demon called Madhu Kaitab who stole the scriptural knowledge from the heart of Brahma, from the mind of Brahma. It's not exactly there was a library and he stole the books. That's not the stealing thing, but knowledge was stolen. And Matsyavatar, who came? Hayagriva came, no? Hayagriva came, and he saved and he restored the knowledge back to Brahma. So Matsyavatar is some other pastime. Satyavrat Muni was there, Saptarishi was there. That's the end of the Manu period. One of the end of the Manu period. Satyavrat king was there, and he, for protecting him and certain devotees, Matsyavatar comes. All the Vedas were protected at that time. Yeah. Madhu Kaitab ke liye Hayagriva comes. Hayagriva is the incarnation. So this is chapter 5. Chapter 6. All the chapter 6 contains is the list of 64 items. I think we should read all the items before we conclude.
Prabhuji, just before proceeding, so when we say bhakti is independent of all this, so at what stage of bhakti can we say this, we can follow? Suppose I don't do some samskara, say it is safe, it is free of samskara, independent of samskara. So at what stage a devotee say that he is free of this thing? So when we say it is like this particular, the example says when a devotee it takes complete shelter, surrendering himself to the lotus feet. So at what stage is it, like Uttamadhikari or in the Bhava stage, Prema stage of Bhakti?
No, in Kanishta, beginning.
So it means even a Kanishtadhikari can devote all these samskaras?
Can give up all if he is practicing pure devotion service. And what is pure devotion service? Anyavilashita Shivanya. If he is following that Anyavilashita principle, then he doesn't have to go through all the samskars.
But how is the practically, how do we know which stage and what to do? So just because I chant 16 rounds, I may say I am perfect. But internally I know, or somebody may know that I am not perfect, or Krishna knows. But what is the milestone to calculate that somebody is in that stage, or not to, it's not. Suppose see, for sannyasis it is said that they need not do some samskaras, those things. But when for Kanishta Adhikari, how to decide we are in which stage now, and what is that, can we give up these samskaras? So how to decide what is the practical...
If it is a part of the family custom, and there are in many of our families, you may follow Shraddha thing, and so many rituals are there. Now, there is nothing wrong in following the ritual if it is a part of the custom. If everyone is doing, some death has happened in the family, and then there is no harm in participating in that ritual. But we have to decide, we have to understand that this ritual is not essential for my spiritual perfection.
It means not to satisfy Krishna. It means some samskaras which are not there to satisfy Krishna. Something.
Even if it is there, if I am practicing, if I am chanting my 16 rounds, following the regulative principles and following the instructions of Guru and Shastra, I don't have to separately perform all these rituals. It is not essential, because I am already following a higher instruction.
So even in which case, two devotees, male and a female, both are devotees, without getting into this one Vivaha Samskara, can they live together? They say we are actually already into Bhakti.
True.
Can they do that?
We don't encourage definitely to do that, but some samskara, if it helps, this Prabhupada, he himself introduced. He said if some Varnashram institution can help practice of Bhakti, accept it. For example, say, if astrology is something Vedic science, now we need not check our astrological charts separately and find out what is my future and spend too much time on it. Because by Bhakti, everything is, all karma reactions are destroyed. But if astrology is taken as something of indicative, what I am going to face ahead, I am not following astrology to change my future. I am just getting to know, so I can prepare myself to face the future. And if it little bit helps me in my practice of devotion, there is no harm in following. So Prabhupada initially, he even started teaching Sanskrit, if you know the early past times. When he was in New York, he started Sanskrit classes. And some students took interest. And Prabhupada was teaching Sanskrit grammar, basic, how Devanagari script, basics. And after a few weeks, they lost interest. Prabhupada also lost interest. And he said anyway, why he started the Sanskrit thing? So that he could introduce Gita lessons, Bhagavatam lessons. That was the purpose. So if some ritual, some Vedic Varnashram ritual is helping in the practice of Bhakti, then accept it. Varnashram is like a container. You get some food item, some nectar, some liquid. If the container is not there, you can't hold it. It will leak off. So Varnashram container helps us to hold the item. Container in itself is useless. Without the container, you can't even hold. So we accept a container. If some bhakti elements can be practiced with the help of the container, you accept that container. But separately going for a container and devoting too much time for the container is not needed. That's the whole idea. If we can practice, that is good. That's a good idea. We encourage mothers who are about to give children. They do kirtan. They recite Gita recitations. All these things are done. That is encouraged.
Because in Bhakti Vedanta Hospital, that course is there, Pragarya Sanskar course is there.
Really?
Yes. 4 months, 7 months, and 6 months. Like
Achha.
Mothers go there. My sister also went there.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
We also find in Mahabharata that God devotees like Yudhishthira used to go for atonement. And though they were in pure devotional service, they used to think of all these Varnashram rituals.
Atonement where? Which pastime?
After the war,
Yeah, true. Yeah, so it's not essential. The point here is, it is not essential for perfection in bhakti. But if you do it, there's nothing wrong. We don't have to devote extra time and spend too much of our mental anxiety in following that. if the whole culture, the environment around is surrounded by that culture, and if it is automatically done, you do it. There's nothing wrong, because it's a part of the whole Vedic system. It's a science. But if you don't have the capacity and the facilities and the resources to do a certain varnashram ritual, and if you are practicing bhakti, Rupa Goswami is advising no need to follow. Don't take extra endeavor to follow that ritual, because bhakti in itself is self-sufficient. So in Yudhishthira's time, the whole quite structured varnashram system is already existing, and it's all a part of the daily ritual. Everyone is into that system. Everything is set up already. But for us today, especially, it's many times it's impractical to follow all those rituals.
Prabhuji, in that sanskar book, everything is given, like Annaprasan when it has to be done.
Acha.
Namkaran when it has to be done.
Acha.
So you have to follow all that.
Yeah. If you can follow. See, as our society grows and evolves, since last 50 years almost, since ISKCON has started. If you remember the first initial years of ISKCON, when Prabhupada started the movement, there's only one thing devotees did. What was that? Sankirtan. That's all they did. 8 to 12 hours of Harinam Sankirtan on the streets. There was no book distribution, there was no college preaching, there was no congregation preaching. All they did throughout the day was Sankirtan, which is the core of our practice. Yuga Dharma, Lord Chaitanya's direct preaching. But then after a few years, books came out. And then book distribution. Why? Because books give you knowledge. Why Harinam has to be performed, all other aspects. Cooking, prasadam. So all these small things were later introduced. As the society evolved, devotees grew, and there were people to take care of these things. Deity worship came much later. And deity worship is not essential from one point of view to practice bhakti. Yuga Dharma is not deity worship, it's only Harinam. But because deity worship helps a practitioner to focus more on the holy name, so deity worship is introduced. So similarly, as years go by and we as a society evolve, then all these extra elements of Vedic culture can be introduced if it helps the core practice. The risk is you forget the essence. If that is forgotten, then this becomes a mundane thing. Therefore, it has to be constantly reminded. This is the core, this is the core. Otherwise, we may equate this to be this. Okay, I am already doing this, so why a little bit of chanting is compromised? No, that is a risk. I'm spending hours on deity worship, so I can chant a little bit less. Instead of 16, I can chant 8. I'm doing so much service. No. This core thing has to, so therefore 16 rounds minimum, 4 regulatives minimum. Other things are meant to support these core activities. So risk is there, therefore focus is lost. Where to focus, where is the distraction, that therefore in the association we have to maintain that clear focus.
Even when we started this course, I think that also has brought a lot of change. Like priority, this is important, that the more you read, the more you definitely.
Yeah, even I am finding so many new things after reading. After a long time back, gave the Bhaktishastri exam, and so many things are coming. Actually, I asked for the Bhagavatam course. I wanted to teach certain sections of Bhagavatam, so my study of Bhagavatam improves. Then they gave me this. And I was initially reluctant, I don't want to teach anybody. But then it's now helping me.
No, I am very.
Yeah. So that is probably Krishna's arrangement to remind me of what is pure devotion. So let us go to the next chapter, finish it off fast. I'll draw a nice chart to explain what is So we have 64 items of devotion service. items of sadhana bhakti. Out of the 64, first 20 items are of primary importance. And the rest 44 additional items of service. Among the 20, out of the 20, first 10 1 to 10 items are activities to be accepted. It's called pravritti. And the rest 10, 11 to 20 are nivritti, activities to avoid. Nivritti. Out of this 44, from 21 to 59 is items of sadhana. And 60 to 64, 5 most effective items. Is it there in the chart?
It's very well done.
Oh. So if you see the notes, it again classifies chapter wise the items of devotional service. Classification of items of devotional service based on chapters. Which chapter discusses which items? So 1 to 18 discusses chapter 7, is discussed in chapter 7. 19 exclusively dedicated to it in chapter 8. 20 to 49, chapter 10, 43 to 46, 11, 47 to 53, and 12, 54 to 64. So let us have a quick read of all the 64 items before we go into details of each. So let us read the first 10. Someone can read the first 10, which is pravritti, items to be accepted.
Read the second paragraph.
Yeah, second paragraph.
He mentions the basic principles as follows. Number 1, accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of the bona fide spiritual master. Number 2, becoming initiated by the spiritual master and learning how to discharge devotion service from him. Number 3, obeying the orders of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. Number 4, following in the footsteps of great acharyas under the direction of the spiritual master. Number 5, inquiring from the spiritual master how to advance in Krishna consciousness. Number 6, being prepared to give up anything material for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. This means that when we engage in the devotional service of Krishna, we must be prepared to give up something which may not like to give up, which we may not like to give up, but also we have to accept something which may not like to accept. Number 7, residing in a sacred place, pilgrimage like Dwarka and Vrindavan. Number 8, accepting only what is necessary or dealing with the material world only as far as necessary. Number 9, observing the fasting day on Ekadasi. Number 10, worshipping sacred trees like the banyan tree. These 10 items are preliminary necessities for beginning the discharge of devotional service in regulatory principles. In the beginning, if a neophyte devotee observes the above mentioned 10 principles, surely he will quickly make good advancement in Krishna consciousness.
So these 10 are the things to be accepted. Of the 10, first 3 are related to spiritual master. All 3. Accepting the shelter of a spiritual master, becoming initiated, and third, obeying the orders. All 3 are connected to Diksha, initial spiritual master. These are the most important. This is the most effective, and they are the most important. 5 most potent or most effective are the last 5, but these are the most important among the 64. First 3. So accepting a guru is not an option. It's not optional.
Necessary.
It's essential. So we may be practicing 64, we may be practicing chanting 16 rounds, following the 4 regulative principles, and much better than initiated devotees probably. But without the guru, it's not effective. It's not complete.
Worshipping banyan tree.
Banyan tree. It's also there.
That's the last one.
You're worshipping Tulsi, right? But that is also there in the 64. Banyan tree, do you worship anywhere?
I don't even
So,
know. I wouldn't recognize a banyan tree.
No, but in ISKCON we don't worship, no?
How to recognize it?
Huh?
How to recognize banyan tree?
Are Ashwatha. Vatavriksha.
जो word जिसमें
What?
Vatavriksha. No, Vata, no?
Yes.
Vatavriksha. Then? What is?
Ashwat is what?
What is different?
No, it's the same.
Same, no? Yeah, it's the same. People thread, ladies do thread. Maharashtra. Really? Maybe. I don't know.
So why? But what is the reason?
She's saying it's different.
People tree is also there.
Huh?
People tree is like Lord Krishna left his, ended his pastimes under a people tree.
Acha.
People and banyan are different. They are different.
They are different. People and
People
Ashwat.
and
Ashwatha.
Ashwat is the tree at Panchwati.
Water is different. Ashwatha and
Banyan tree.
Okay, we'll have to confirm. Difference of opinion is there.
Why
But,
worship?
huh?
Why worship banyan tree?
It is considered sacred. Something is there. I don't know the science behind it.
In the 11th chapter, he says about the trees and the Ashwat.
Yeah, that is it. Ashwatha sarva vrikshanam. And material world is compared to an inverted upside tree, Ashwatha tree. Ashwatha is, references are there quite many times it comes. What is the science behind that thread? What is that science, you know? Why there is row?
For material the desires only. For maybe for people without child.
They're binding the Lord. Because he says, I am the Ashwat tree.
Yeah.
You are very transcendental.
That's a good idea.
पत्ते से bind नहीं आएंगे तो thread से तो bind.
Thread से तो bind करोगे. हाँ?
Binding the Lord.
But it's only in Maharashtra, no? Isn't it?
No, Gujarati they do.
Acha.
In every state there is something like that.
But how is Ashwatha connected to getting a husband?
Getting a husband, getting a child, for everything.
Yeah, I think those.
Only married women do. Acha, that's so. Why get a good after getting marrying?
Good child.
Huh?
Good child.
No husband, na?
It is done by an unmarried person.
So men have no option. No, I'm seriously asking.
Men say no.
Huh?
Men say no.
Actually, all these type of rituals is more for ladies only.
Yeah.
See, worshipping the trees in Vedic culture is considered worshipping the forefather.
Worshipping the tree?
That's why, offer water to the tree.
Acha.
Green tree revolution.
Huh?
Green tree revolution.
अरे बेटी आपका बुक ले गया ना वो
कौन सा बुक? संस्कार. आपके थे ना?
It's mentioned only for Tulasi. Tulasi, when you are pouring water on Tulasi, there are all the 33 crores of devatas are recited.
Yeah.
That's what the feeling.
Tulsi is there, another item among the 64.
But Tulsi also demigod side?
I don't know.
No, cow I heard.
Cow I have heard, yeah.
Tulsi,
Tulsi is the Devi.
yeah, it's a Devi. It's separate. Please explain.
Let us read the next 10. Nivritti, items to be avoided.
The next set of instructions is as follows. One should rigidly give up the company of non-devotees. One should not instruct a person who is not desirous of accepting devotional service. One should not be very enthusiastic about constructing costly temples or monasteries.
Monsters.
Monastery.
One should not try to read too many books, nor should one develop the idea of earning livelihood by lecturing on or professionally reciting Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. One should not be neglectful in ordinary dealings. One should not be under the spell of lamentation in loss or jubilation in gain. One should not disrespect the demigods. One should not give unnecessary trouble to any living entity. One should carefully avoid the various offences in chanting the holy name of the Lord or in worshipping the deity in the temple. One should be very intolerant toward the blasphemy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna or his devotees.
Disrespecting the demigods is an important point as devotees of Krishna. Otherwise, in the initial enthusiasm, we do that many times. And that puts off many people. So next 21 to...
Not considering costly temple.
Where is it?
Number 2.
Yeah, third or fourth, somewhere it is.
One should not.
Yeah, that is true. But if it helps in preaching, then we do it. And Prabhupada said, no, I can preach even in sitting under a tree. Will you come and listen to my talks? If I am sitting under a tree. Therefore, we need a temple. And people are usually attracted to the gorgeous structure than the teachings that are taught inside. The chandeliers and the Italian. That's what many people see, especially Europeans. So many Westerners come here into our temple, and all they see is click the photos of the floor marble and the stones. Deity is invisible, totally. They can't even see. This is what they see. And the structures, the designs and the paintings. And then deity is also there, some standing structure.
At least somewhere they can appreciate it.
Huh?
Chapel stand also there.
They take photos.
Last week I was.
Achha.
They should go to the Golden Temple. There they actually, the chappals are given. They are washed and.
Yeah, I know. So therefore, temples are part of the whole thing. But then it also happened, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur's story. He constructed that Bagbazar temple in Calcutta, and then devotees are fighting with this. I need this room. I want that room. So he said, break down the temple, sell the bricks, and produce books and distribute books. So that risk is there.
The idea is not to divert the attention of
yeah,
that is very.
That is the idea.
That is the idea of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Because for example, sometimes I remember our Bangalore temple. Where our Acharya Bhagavad doesn't want Tache Garga's temple, but they went and constructed.
Yeah.
At the end, what happened when they separated out from
What happened at the end?
They are on the they are not on the mainstream.
Yeah.
So at the end, it's
a deviations there.
They have taken some deviations. So it happens that you become illusioned by having that gorgeous temple, I constructed this.
Yeah, it should be the best.
So then it happened. It may help in preaching in one way, but ultimately no sannyasis go there, and people are more or less go. At least from our side, we are not encouraging to go, willing to go there. So these are examples already there. Explained.
So yes, 21 to 59. Let us finish off 10 each. 10 items each.
The next important items are as follows. One should decorate the body with tilaka, which is a sign of the Vaishnavas. The idea is that as soon as a person sees these marks on the body of the Vaishnava, he will immediately remember Krishna. Lord Chaitanya said that a Vaishnava is he who, when seen, reminds one of Krishna. Therefore, it is essential that a Vaishnava mark his body with tilaka to remind others of Krishna. In marking such tilaka, sometimes one may write Hare Krishna on the body. One should accept flowers and garlands that have been offered to the deity and the spiritual master and put them on one's body. One should learn to dance before the deity. One should learn to bow down immediately upon seeing the deity or the spiritual master. As soon as one visits a temple of Lord Krishna, one must stand up. When the deity is being borne for a stroll in the street, a devotee should immediately follow the procession. In this connection,
You can go to the next 8 point.
Okay, it is. A devotee must visit a Vishnu temple at least once or twice every day, morning and evening. In Vrindavan.
Ninth.
Okay. One must circumambulate the temple building at least 3 times. In every temple there is an arrangement.
10th. You're just reading the points, not the details.
Okay. One must worship the deity in the temple according to the regulated principles.
Yes. Who can read the next 10?
One must render personal service to the deities. 12, one must sing. 13, one must perform Sankirtana. 14, one must chant. 15, one must offer prayers. 16, one must recite notable prayers. 17, one must taste Mahaprasada, food from the very plate offered before the deities. 18, one must drink Charanamrita, water from the bathing of the deities, which is offered to the guests. 19, one must smell the incense and flowers offered to the deity. 20, one must touch the lotus feet of the deity.
Next 10.
One must see the deity with great devotion. One must offer his arti at different times. One must hear about the Lord and his pastimes from Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita and similar books. One must pray to the deity for his mercy. One should remember the deity. One should meditate upon the deity. One should render some voluntary service. One should think of the Lord as one's friend. One should offer everything to the Lord, and one should offer a favorite article such as food or a garment.
One should take all kinds of risks and perform all endeavors for Krishna's benefit. In every condition, one should be surrendered soul. One should pour water on the tulsi tree. One should regularly hear Srimad Bhagavatam and similar literature. One should live in a sacred place like Mathura, Vrindavan or Dwarka. One should offer service to Vaishnavas. One should arrange one's devotional service according to one's means. In the month of Kartika, October and November, one should make arrangements for special services. During Janmashtami, the time of Krishna's appearance in this world, one should observe a special service. One should do whatever is done with great care and devotion for the deity.
Yeah, finish off.
One should realize the pleasures of Bhagavatam, reading among devotees and not among outsiders. One should associate with devotees who are considered more advanced. One should chant the holy name of the Lord. One should live in the jurisdiction of Mathura.
So the last 5 are the 5 most effective, potent forms of devotional service. Chanting, hearing Bhagavatam, associating with devotees, deity worship, and residing in a holy place. So, the total regularity principles come to an aggregate of 64. As we have mentioned, the first are the primary 10, next 10 are secondary, and added to these are 44 other activities. Altogether, there are 64 items for discharging the regularity practice of devotional service. Out of the 64 items, 5 items are very important. So Prabhupada has designed our ISKCON programs, and the morning program especially, you end up performing almost all 64. Majority of 64 items are covered in the morning program.